Hello and welcome to the Two Dyspraxics, episode 21. My name is Matthew Munson.
And my name's Barbara Neill.
And today we're going to be busting some myths. We are the Mythbusters as well as the Two Dyspraxics today.
I think maybe we should say that we're busting myths about dyspraxia.
About dyspraxia, yes, specifically.
Kind of not just in general terms.
Not the boiling point of water or something, I don't know.
No, is that a myth?
Probably not, no. I don't know, it's the first thing that came into my head.
Well, fair enough.
Anyway.
We're not even going to bust that, but we are going to bust a few myths about dyspraxia.
But my first question to you is, do you suffer from dyspraxia?
No. Do you suffer from dyspraxia?
No.
That's a bit weird, isn't it? I mean, we're the two dyspraxics and neither of us suffer from dyspraxia. Why do you suppose that might be?
Well, I reckon it's because that dyspraxia is not a condition to be suffered from. It's a condition we have to accept, but we do not suffer from it. We learn how to deal with it, we learn how to manage it, but we do not suffer the condition. We are not sufferers. We are human beings that have this condition.
Yeah, which, to be honest, doesn't even enter into our daily life until we start talking about it. You know, now it's not something that's really there and prevalent, and I'm thinking about the fact that I have dyspraxia all the time. It just isn't how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say something else, I can't remember what it was. It can't be that important.
Short-term memory.
Short-term memory is another problem, yeah.
Actually, I've read something about Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, he's got dyspraxia, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yes, and it said that he admitted he suffers from dyspraxia in this article. And, oh God, that really
Bless
is
him.
a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
He admits it as though it's something to be ashamed of, or
why should you have to feel like you've got to admit that you've got dyspraxia? Oh, you suffer from dyspraxia. I've got dyspraxia. I'll tell you on your answer today.
I did suffer fairly recently, actually, but that was from the flu. That's suffering, you know.
That's actually
It
suffering.
wasn't nice, but the dyspraxia is just.
It's a condition we've got, and if you feel, I mean, some people feel negative about their dyspraxia because perhaps they may not have learned ways of managing the symptoms, or may not have been showing positive about dyspraxia. So they may feel like people are suffering, and some people watching this may feel they are suffering.
Yeah, I think some of that might be down to limitations placed on them by other people's misconception about what dyspraxia is, the capabilities that people who have dyspraxia have. And so if there's an imbalance between the person knows inside that they have capabilities that just aren't coming out because of those limitations that have been put on them.
But
so
usually
in that context.
Sorry to interrupt, but usually the people that put limitations on dyspraxic people are usually, I would say, non-dyspraxic.
Absolutely, yes.
So they don't get what we can actually do, because they people will assume, and I've experienced this firsthand, is that people see that we've got a condition, and then assume that we can't do something that someone else can do.
They see the condition and can't see past that.
Yeah, they can't see the human being.
Which is odd, really, because dyspraxia is one of those invisible conditions anyway.
Yeah.
But not quite invisible enough sometimes.
Yeah. Some people do still see it, sometimes, don't they? Yeah.
Or they see their own take on it, their own perception of what dyspraxia is.
And actually then do sometimes pass that impression on to a dyspraxic person who may then believe that they can't do this or can't do that.
But at the same time, though, that dyspraxic person knows that, because I don't know about you, but I certainly know inside how much I am capable of.
Yeah.
I know that there's plenty I'm capable of. So if I'm having other limitations from outside being put on me, and they don't actually match up, there's an imbalance there immediately. So that creates a conflict, an internal conflict, which is not really what we need or what helps us in any way.
Yeah. So it's confusing. It's not, doesn't mean you're suffering in that sense. They feel like you are, but it's not. The condition isn't suffering when you suffer from, either. But another question for you.
Yeah.
Are you and I, as dyspraxic people, identical?
Yes, I think I have heard that people can't tell the difference between you and me. Just look at us now.
Yep.
Absolutely identical. You can't tell us apart.
No, nothing. Because of our dyspraxia, we are clones.
Yeah, we really should stop both wearing stripes at the same time.
Actually, we should, shouldn't we? Yeah, because it must confuse the audience. I mean, that's why we all sit on the same side, so that you can work out. It's like ant and deck, so you can work out which one is which.
Ant.
I don't know either of them, so I'll be either one of them.
No. But in all seriousness, though, of course, we are individuals. We both have the same condition, we share a condition, but we don't have exactly the same symptoms. We don't think the same way. We both think in a way which is not regarded as neurotypical, which isn't necessarily, that doesn't make us in any way inferior to people who do.
It makes us different.
And so we both think in different ways from the way neurotypical people think. And to be honest with you, I suspect that neurotypical people think in different ways from each other as well.
Yeah.
We are simply individuals and wish to be treated as such.
It is frustrating, that you see this label. People see this label of dyspraxia and think, okay, well, they're all going to interpret the world in exactly the same way. Well, actually, it's as much about our personal experiences, like anyone else. You get dyspraxic scientists, you get dyspraxic writers, hypnotherapists, and whatever else, and you get scientific people and non-scientific. I mean, I'm totally non-scientific anyway. Einstein, heaven's sake, speculated to have been dyspraxic, and he's that much as scientific, I think, as you can get.
Absolutely.
To be fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's annoying that you're kind of seen as this clone of each other.
Yeah. Oh, you have dyspraxia, therefore you must be like this, or you must have that particular capability. And there are some similarities, obviously, between all of us. And I mean, for example, it's quite well known that it's particularly difficult to learn how to ride a bicycle.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I never did pass that particular. It's not a myth. I never did manage to learn how to ride a bike.
But then that is the thing. Something I've seen with unfortunately other dyspraxia organisations, not all but some, as well as other neurotypical people, that they'll say you can't ride a bike if you're dyspraxic.
That's not the case.
I can ride a bike, and so this relates to the last point as well. Barbara and I both have dyspraxia. Barbara didn't learn how to ride a bike. I did. It took me probably 2-3 times as long as my non-dyspraxic friends, and blessing, my dad had so much patience. Well, my parents, mum and dad had so much patience with me. Taking the stabilisers off, teaching me again, until I got it, because I wanted to learn, because my mates were on bikes, so I wanted to keep up with them. It was difficult, but I did it.
But we prioritise, and it wasn't as important for me to learn to ride a bike. So when my brother had a bike, I had a dog. Because it was more important for me to have a dog
Fair enough.
To ride a bike. And my dyspraxic son, and I hope he forgives me for this, because he doesn't go on about the fact that he's dyspraxic, and in fact barely mentions it to anybody.
Which is his right.
Absolutely it is, it certainly is, and he lives an absolutely normal life, a very productive life, and he's very happy, very capable. But he learned to ride a bike early on, and he was really inspired by the fact that my dad offered him 50p as soon as he could ride a bike to the end of our garden, and that was incentive enough.
Well, absolutely, 50p to a child back in the, I assume, 80s was a lot of money. Yeah.
90s.
90s. Oh, okay, 90s. We're seeing in the 90s. Yeah, that's been very appealing. It's been appealing to me back then, hasn't it? It is now.
But the point is, though, we all have our different priorities and different lifestyles, and so we have to prioritise, because there are certain problems that we face in learning how to do certain things. So it's a case of having to prioritise. To me, it wasn't important learning how to ride a bike. It was very important for me to learn how to drive, so I did that. Well,
actually, that's an interesting point, because it is scientifically proven that dyspraxics can't drive cars.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Didn't stop me though.
No.
Fortunately, when I did learn to drive a car and pass my test, I've never heard of dyspraxia, so I certainly didn't know I had it. Otherwise, I have a sneaking suspicion that had I been diagnosed when I was a youngster and told I have dyspraxia and therefore will never be able to drive a car, which I have heard actually. I've heard people say, "Oh, you'll never be able to drive a car if you have dyspraxia," that's where the myth comes in this particular instance. But had I heard that when I was a youngster, then I probably would never have even tried.
See, my problem is, I mean, as you've seen in the previous episode, I'm currently learning to drive, and I think for me, and I'm being completely honest, I think it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I think locked away in some hind part of my brain, I am convinced that I will never pass my test because I am dyspraxic.
Right, we will change that.
Yeah, please. I need some hypnotherapy to overcome that. But I strongly suspect that a part of my brain is sabotaging my efforts to learn how to drive. Because I've avoided lessons in the last 2 weeks. I have just forgotten to chase up my driving instructor, but I haven't chased up my driving instructor. Another lesson. Everything that I can to possibly avoid having a lesson at the moment, I seem to be doing subconsciously. Not deliberately, not because I don't like my driving instructor. I do. In fact, he's a friend of mine as well as being a driving instructor. He's a guy called John. He's a great friend as well. I just haven't rung him to rebook a lesson.
Well, you have no doubt had this message being reinforced that it's extremely difficult or complicated for a dyspraxic person to learn to drive, if it's possible at all.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did hear that message, and I did. Thankfully, only after I tried the first time round, and I consider myself a fairly strong-minded person in that sense. But even to me, a little part of it must have sunk in, because I know exactly what I'm doing, and this isn't usually like me. I like to consider myself as fairly decisive and willing to take action when I want to, but I'm kind of prevaricating. I don't like it, but it's almost like the myth, part of the myth, has almost sunk into my brain. And I recognise the plurality of what I'm saying, but I'm here talking to you about, we're here talking to you about the myths of dyspraxia. Barbara can drive a car for heaven's sake,
Yeah, and I'm quite sure that the only reason I can is because I didn't know I was dyspraxic. I had no limitations placed on me whatsoever. I couldn't see any reason at all why I shouldn't learn how to drive. So I did it.
Yeah. And logically, there is no reason why I can't learn to drive either. No. Logically. Emotionally, I'm still clearly carrying something over from the days when I was told in the past, oh, you're dyspraxic, you can't do X, Y, and Z. So some hypnotherapy, I suspect, for me on that matter, would help.
Without a doubt, yes, we'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll do that. We'll
feedback on that.
Progress and so on. So we'll certainly do that. But if you don't drive and you don't ride a bike, you can always walk.
That's true. Now, actually, this is something genuinely serious, because obviously everyone watching this will noticed it. There is actually, joking apart now, a specific way that dyspraxics walk. It's very noticeable how we walk, and you can actually tell we're dyspraxic from that way.
Well, actually, there is a video, I believe, that has been made that demonstrates how dyspraxics walk, and Monty Python team covered it very, very well.
Yes, they were very professional actually in that. They didn't play it for laughs at all.
No,
very, very good.
Absolutely not. It's marvellous job.
And if anyone out there believes what we've just said, I'm going to hit you on the head with this bottle of Vodka that I'm holding in my hand out of the view of the camera. There is not a specific dyspraxic way of walking. And if anybody tells you differently, I'll be frank with you, they are lying to you.
Yes, indeed. They may be lying because they don't know any better.
Absolutely.
In which case they've got no right to make that kind of statement.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah, it could be just because dilute lack of awareness. Yeah. It's no.
In fact, I think if it is tricky if we're walking, like earlier today, we're walking together and we're holding conversation because there's a lot going on there, so there's a lot that we need to focus our attention on.
Yeah.
So you can kind of veer a bit and jostle people. It happens.
I do that a lot. Right. If I'm talking, if I'm then trying to focus on where I'm going, if I'm trying to remember where I'm going, my walking will kind of slightly go like that. It happens, but
no, I knew exactly what I was going to say then, and it's gone.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
As you know. But what I was going to say, yes, if...
Sorry, I distracted you, Bob.
Yeah, it's okay, don't worry about it, because if we're walking alone, you can't tell the difference between a dyspraxic person walking and anybody else walking. But I think the important thing is, it does take a lot of concentration, so we look normal.
Yeah.
It's a normal walk. But it's because we're concentrating on it, we're working on it.
And interestingly, I have had a couple of times where people have, if I've been walking home late at night or whatever. I mean, I don't drink at all. I don't drink at all, so I am always stone cold sober when I'm walking home. I can guarantee that. And I've had a couple of people go out, "Oh, you're drunk, mate." And No, I'm not actually. I'm completely sober. But because I'm not paying attention, because I'm listening to music, or I'm completely in a world of my own, or whatever it may be, I've lost concentration for a minute, and my walking starts to veer a little bit. And I'm like, oh god, yeah, I'm not walking as well as I should be. So then I start concentrating more, and I focus, and I get back to the walk. What is normal and kind of done for you guys, but typical people without thought, we have to give a lot more thought to the act of something so simple.
Exactly. It's interesting you say you're drunk, because that's something that emphasises the fact that it's not dyspraxia that makes us walk that way, it's lack of concentration.
Yeah.
So I guess, it is dyspraxia that causes it, but,
yeah, I know what you
but
mean.
It's not the dyspraxic walk, it's the lack of concentration walk.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the difference, really.
Because dyspraxic people can walk as well. I mean, for heaven's sake, I'm not, forgive me, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, I've done some walking marathons in the last 2 or 3 years. So I've walked 26.2 miles overnight. Now, if there was a dyspraxic walk, if there was a way that our dyspraxic bodies walked differently to a neurotypical person's body, I could not have done that walk and kept up the pace with the 16,000 other people on that walk. I did. Okay, no, I'm not telling you that because whatever, I got a medal. Yeah, what you do, but
it's true.
I maintained that level. It's true. I did manage it, but I maintained pace with the neurotypical people walking around London doing those walking marathons. I maintained pace. I overtook a lot of people doing them. So anyone who says, "Oh, you're dyspraxic,"
a specific way of walking,
it's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. And if anyone tries to show you how you're supposed to walks or whatever, challenge them about it. No, that's not how dyspraxic people walk. They walk exactly the same as everyone else.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, because we need to be able to stick up for ourselves, those of us who have dyspraxia, and not be told what to expect from ourselves by other people.
Yeah, especially people who haven't got the condition, so don't understand. And as I said earlier, each person's dyspraxia is different. Next point, probably, and again, it's another clear point, we all think very clearly in the same way.
As if. Yeah, of course we don't.
Yeah.
We do not think in the same way. We think differently. We've said this already. Actually, we think differently from neurotypical people. But then, I'm sure a lot of neurotypical people think in different ways. So, of course, we don't all think in the same way. Of course, we don't. It's almost. It feels almost insulting to discuss it because it's so ludicrous.
That's exactly the word, Bob. It is ludicrous that thought is out there, and sadly it is for some people. And again, if you hear that, challenge it if you feel comfortable challenging it. Ignore it if you don't.
Follow your gut. Follow your gut instinct, because it's your intuition. You know you better than anybody else does. So don't be told how to feel, how to walk, how to think, what to do, just because you have dyspraxia. So you are perfectly capable of thinking for yourself, of living a perfectly normal life, whatever normal is for you. So you don't have to depend on what other people tell you you're capable of doing.
And this leads kind of onto the last point. It's possibly opening a can of worms in some ways, but it's worth mentioning. We are worthy of being patronised.
Of course we're not. So anybody tries to patronise me, and they won't get very far.
I wouldn't dare, but trust me, she's a violent son. No, she's not. I'm sorry.
Only if someone tries to patronise me. Risk. No.
I
really don't like being patronised.
I could be, but I remember certainly a job I had many years ago. When I declared that I got dyspraxia, when it was 20 or so, and I declared that I got dyspraxia, and the reaction from management was out of all proportion. Now I didn't know much about dyspraxia at that time. I was still learning about it. I was still researching it, but I thought I'd be open, in the workplace, and just discuss it, get it out there, so that people knew what was different about me. The reaction from management was so OTT and patronising, to be frank. It was depressing. It was awful. And do you know what, for me, I'm feeling that I'm, gobby broke in my 30s now. I'm happy to stand up for myself, and I certainly will. But in my early 20s, I was quite different. I was quite shy. I was quite introverted in some senses. And it put my development back away in terms of my psychology, because I wouldn't then declare myself my dyspraxia. Because I assumed that every neurotypical person would react in the same way, would patronise me in the same extreme as that management team had done. I didn't want that. I wanted to be treated like anyone else.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be treated differently, or Barbara, you've had experiences with being treated differently in exams and stuff, and I hate that. I hate being treated differently. I hate being patronised. Oh, there, you've got dyspraxia.
Yeah, therefore we'll make allowances. It's not allowances we want, it's support where necessary, or where we request it, basically.
Yeah.
I'm speaking on my behalf and yours.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. On that, Barbara, we do think the same.
Yes.
On that particular matter, on that one.
It's the same opinion.
It's the same opinion.
Rather than the same thought processes,
which is a different matter. Yeah. Be comfortable with your own opinions. If something feels wrong, if something grates with you, then it's not right for you. If someone is telling you, well, we're going to do this for you because you've got dyspraxia, and if it doesn't feel right, then it's not right.
You have to stand up for yourself,
Yeah.
really.
But also, we're here to help you stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. And we've both been there when you were saying that you were quite shy and introverted because of the way you were treated, basically. Yeah. And I was just the same. I mean, I know it's very hard to believe now because, like you, obviously got to a certain age, I don't really give a damn anymore. So I will say what I think, and if people are offended by that, that's really their problem to deal with and not mine.
Quite.
Because I've been there, so I've been very introverted and standing on the sidelines and feeling I can't join in with other people because of the problems I've been facing as far as the dyspraxia is concerned.
The problems that you've been made to feel like.
Precisely, yes.
You've got.
And it wasn't. I mean, I do count myself very, very lucky because I've spent most of my life not knowing about dyspraxia at all, and then being sort of old enough, big enough, and elderly enough not to care too much.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's not to say I didn't experience problems, because I did. Certainly while I was growing up, I had all manner of problems as a result of it. But I haven't been limited, and that's something I do feel incredibly strongly about, which is why I keep going on about it, I suppose. But I haven't had those limitations placed on me. And
you know what, I really like the concept of early diagnoses of dyspraxia, with the caveat that an early diagnosis shouldn't mean an early assumption that child, that adult, whenever they're diagnosed early, is then written off.
Exactly.
Say at 15 years old, I was diagnosed as being dyspraxic, and there was this unspoken assumption, I think, amongst school, where I was at the time, that certain things I couldn't do. Wouldn't be able to either drive a car. And do you know what? Funny enough, one of the few people that didn't act like that was my sports teacher. No, I don't like sports. I'm fully admit. It's not because I'm dyspraxic. I just don't like sports. To be fair. I don't mind rugby and golf. I watch rugby and golf. That's where I'll watch rugby and golf. I was my sports teacher at school. Lovely guy called Ray Grimes, and he deserves a special kudos mention there. For 5 years, that man did not give up on me. He could have easily said, "Well, you're dyspraxic. You can't play sports. You can't do anything." But instead, he forced me to get involved. He said, "No, Matthew, you will do what everyone else is doing. You will do the 400 metres, you will do the cross country, you will play football with the rest of your class, rest of the boys in your class. You're not going to get away with it, and you're not going to use your dyspraxia as an excuse not to get involved in a lesson, despite the fact I hated the lesson and would have used anything as an excuse not to do it."
Likewise.
And do you know what? Utter respect to him, because that is what every teacher in a school should be like. No, you're not going to give up on this class because you've got dyspraxia. If you hate the class because it's a class you just don't like, that's different. I'm awful at geography and sports. Hated both subjects, but I wasn't allowed to give up because of my dyspraxia. And that's how I look at it. It's teachers or friends or relatives or professionals in the fields shouldn't be allowed to write you off because of your dyspraxia, and shouldn't patronise. And that is a form of being patronised, as far as I'm concerned. I'm quite militant about that, as you can tell.
Yes, we feel strongly about it, and so do I. Quite rightly, because I mean, as I'm sort of keep harping on about driving, but it does throw up many examples of how to treat a dyspraxic person, how not to treat a dyspraxic person. I've been driving since 1980, so I passed my driving test in 1980. I've never had any points or endorsements on my licence, so I've always had a clean driving licence. So I regard myself as a pretty good, safe driver.
I'll be in the car with you, and yeah, you're a good driver.
And so I found it incredibly patronising when I was giving someone a lift once, and I had to reverse down the road. Now, yeah, I've been driving at that time. That would have been 3 or 4 years ago. So I've been driving a long time, and so this person knew I was dyspraxic, knew I am dyspraxic rather, and got to the end of the road, and she said, "Oh, well done." Yeah, which I really don't want a pat on the back just because I've done something I normally do.
Which is just a normal part of the exercise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I find that really hard to handle. It's not supportive. It's patronising. It's unpleasant. It's unpleasant to be treated like that.
And at the end of the day, we're human beings with feelings, not a different creature.
Not trained monkeys.
Quite. And so Bob and I were saying earlier, just to perhaps round it off, and this Bob, I think, to anything after I've spoken, is that in an ideal world, organisations like the Two Dyspraxics wouldn't need to exist. In an ideal world, we wouldn't need to be here doing what we're doing, although that would be a shame because I actually really enjoy doing what we're doing,
I
to
think
be
we
fair.
probably still make videos just for the laugh.
Well, actually, you're probably right, to be fair. We'd still be doing what we're doing, but in a different form. But in an ideal world, we wouldn't exist, because in an ideal world, there wouldn't be these myths, there wouldn't be this patronising attitude to dyspraxia, to all conditions on that spectrum. But there is, and there are, so we need to spread the message.
Absolutely we do. Absolutely we do. And that's something that everybody can do, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we can spout how we feel about such things. I suspect that there are probably many other dyspraxic people out there who feel very much as we do. I know there are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I know for sure. So please just spread this video around as much as you like. We can rant and rave, and but I was just going to say, if we're speaking on behalf of other people as well who feel the same way, then please feel free to share video link.
Yeah, absolutely, please do. And because we want to get in touch with people that don't feel as confident and comfortable with it, things as we have thankfully now got to the point where we are. We want to talk and meet with those people. We want to be able to support them, not help them, but support them, because help and support are different things.
I think the important thing is we are each in control of our own lives, and we need to exercise that control and not hand it over to anybody else.
Yes, but the more these myths are perpetrated, the more people think that's what needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm dyspraxic, do with me as you will.
Yeah.
You tell me what I'm supposed to do. It's not like that.
Utter tosh.
It doesn't have to be like that. So take control of your life, and if you're having problems, if you're finding it difficult to do that, contact us.
Yeah, most definitely. On that bombshell. On that note,
I'm not going to launch into anything Top Gear related.
No. I'm just sold on that Clarkson catchphrase. I like it. Thank you for watching.
It's good night from me.
And it's good night from her. Thank you, and see you again. Bye.